Okay, so this is a bit of an experiment. I'm gonna recap the 2015 Belgian Grand Prix as it's just happened this morning or afternoonish. I wake up quite late on Sundays, so. But I'm gonna play Fuel as I do it, just to give you guys something to watch while I talk. So we might as well start with the result. Pretty standard fare in the end. Uh, Championship leader Lewis Hamilton was first. His teammate Rosberg was second. But rather than our standard third place for Vettel, which is the current F1 norm, we had Romain Grosjean, who I haven't seen him on the podium in ages, but that Lotus looked really quick today. At least later on in the race, it really sped up, which surprised me. I haven't been used to thinking about Romain Grosjean very much recently, but it's nice to see. You know, he's not a new face on the podium, but he's a new guy for this year. It mixes things up a bit, which when you've got a championship which looks pretty settled and you've not got loads of people all competing for the same place, the third place on the podium is a big thing for a lot of the smaller teams to achieve, and a lot of the drivers, it's going to help them out in their career long term. So it's nice to see someone other than Vettel or Raikkonen or Massa fill out that spot. Now, this might as well go with the start now. It was a bit messy because Hulkenberg clearly had a problem. Like they originally told him to abort the start, and then just before he went round the final corner, they said, "No, take the start, Nico." There was some sort of, I think, problem in his car. He just didn't start. He didn't go. They aborted the start once, and then they aborted it again, which is a bit. Did they abort it again? Sorry, I might have misremembered. They definitely aborted it once. And that took me by surprise a little. But the second race in the row that's happened, which is not a particularly normal thing to happen, but it's for safety. I remember, I think it might have been the very sad San Marino Grand Prix in '94, where everyone remembers it as it's one of those strange. This is going on a big tangent, but one of those races where the events surrounding the weekend far overshadow the actual race itself, and you forget that was one of the first podium finishes for Mika Hakkinen. But also, there was a horrendous start that day, and I think it was JJ Leto in the Lotus or something. I'm sure somebody's going to bring me up on that. But like a couple of people stalled from the start and just got rammed straight in the back, and that's why now when you think someone's got a problem on the start, they abort it because everyone's trying to get their race going. It's one of the few times in the race where you can't really account for what the guy in front of you is doing because you just expect that they're going to start moving. And if someone doesn't move, it's very easy with you only starting 16 meters behind them to ram in the back of them. So the aborted start it's just a thing we have to deal with. Also, Carlos Sainz claims to have Sainz Jr. I guess is his name. I've got to call him now. He had, I think, also some sort of ERS or at least drivetrain issue, but he kept running for a long part of the race, which I think Toro Rosso were clearly just thinking, let's do a few laps, get what we can out of this weekend, and then they retired the car, which is slightly cynically because if you retire the car, you get to change gearbox elements and stuff like that. Ooh, that was closer at the finish than I thought it was. Anyway. So the start, it was also the first one since they've had the start procedure changed slightly, which everyone thought might create a bit of chaos. It didn't really, but Hamilton got away very well, which is in contrast to the last couple of races. But his teammate did not do so great, and I guess that makes it more interesting. Like I think there was certainly a more mixed start than usual. But it will be something that we have to watch out for, because I think a lot of the time, Formula One being the professional entity it is, they'd make a rule change to make things slightly harder, and everyone just works out a way to negate it instantly. They'll try and take some downforce off somewhere, and the engineers will just find downforce to put in somewhere else. it's pretty much the name of the game is let's make it as hard as possible for you, and we'll find a way to, and then you find a way to negate it. So, but the start did leave us with Sergio Perez certainly stormed out, which again Force India are a strange beast because they build a car that is always very quick in a straight line, but not so great at other parts of the in other areas. But they've clearly made a step forward since they brought in their B-Spec or their actual 2015 car. The original car they were running this year was the last year's car, but with the safety structure and stuff remodeled for this year's regulations. So they've clearly made a step forward on that front, but this is also coming to 2 races every year they do really well at. Silverstone they were alright at, but Spa and Monza are very, very fast circuits, really is the only way to put it, and you're on the full throttle a lot of the time. There's not very many slow corners. Well, there's not very many medium corners really, because there's loads of slow corners at Monza, but that's more about mechanical grip than about aero. So Force India are going to be good this week and next. That's just how F1 works, really. But Checo Perez was 4th on the grid and was leading up to the end of Sector 1 on the first lap, which is very good going for a small team like that. Obviously, he was passed as soon as they came into Lecombe, or at least he did. Or he didn't make the pass stick into Lecombe with Hamilton, but it's good enough going. Once that happened, Hamilton pretty much just pulled away and was never seen again until the finish line, which is a shame. But again, that's just the way racing works. They've got a very fast car, and he's not making many. For him to lose requires someone to make a mistake. It requires him to make a big mistake and someone else to have a perfect race. And he didn't really make a mistake today, so good on him. You got to hand it to him. It's, jumping ahead to the championship situation, he's in a very comfortable position because it's another 7 points on Nico, and Vettel's tyre blowout, basically getting him 0 points, has pretty much put him out of the race if he was ever in it in the first place. So if you're Lewis Hamilton tonight, which only one of you are, so I doubt he has time for this sort of shit, but you got to be sitting pretty. But then there was an interesting battle for second. Perez was, as I said, was very quick off the start and had good pace throughout the race. But Daniel Ricciardo in that Red Bull, they're very fast throughout. Going down the hill, so from Lecombe down to I think Blanchimont or so, the second sector, they were very fast because it's twisty, and Red Bull have always built a car for that kind of race. And when you get the DRS involved, the DRS into I'll come to that in a minute, but it was able to produce a fast enough lap to bring him right up the front and put him in second place for all the way till the first pit stops, really. But just on that DRS, it was too strong. Pretty much, you get into the Camel Straight, you knew you were well past the guy in front of you before you even took Lecombe, which I don't think is what DRS is meant for. I know DRS is supposed to aid overtaking, but I don't think it should just give you the pass. I think they need to have made it. I know things change every year. The straight line speed of the cars change every year. But I think they need to make it so that basically what you gain is you have a chance to be level going into it, because there's just quite a tight chicane. So you could pass if you were level with them there. There's not a particular one line is better than the other. So if you're side by side going to Lecombe, you've got a chance to overtaking them. Whereas this was just raw past them and hope that there was no hope for anybody in holding off, other than one particular person, which we'll come to in a bit. So that was up to the first pit stop. Rosberg was struggling, and we had that sort of the status quo had emerged of Hamilton, Perez, Ricciardo. Then after the first pit stop, Rosberg had stayed out a bit longer than the others, and I think once he was in clean air, he was just faster. Like people talk a lot about the undercut as being the way to win races, or at least take the lead, because it seems to work most of the time. But it only really works if you're faster. Like you can't. The undercut works very well if you're the guy behind, but you're in a much faster car, and all you need to do is drop into space and put in some hot laps. Ricciardo and Perez were not that in that situation at all. They were sort of holding Rosberg up, like not so slow as to sort of backing him up, but he was not able. He was not fast enough to pass him in regular situation, but fast enough that once they sort of got out of the way and gone to the other tyres, he just zoomed up the road. And by the time he pitted, he was side by side with Perez and took him into the room like all the other parts in the race happened. So, and then we had the Mercedes 1-2 lead of the race. Let's just ignore it. Like, it was just gone. Now, like, I don't like saying it, but this is how Formula 1 is a lot of the time, that you're looking for your race from third down, because it's usually a dominant car and they're usually pretty. If things go well for them, they don't make many mistakes. So that was the front two done. It's probably worth addressing Valtteri Bottas. He should have, like, everything was stacked up for a great weekend for him, really, before it got going. But this is a racetrack that suits Williams. It certainly suits his sort of driving style. Well, it's a driving style I think we like to imagine he has, which is this sort of balls to the wall finish. Now, I don't know how much. This is a problem. This is going to get very personal and deep into my head, by the way. This whole show that I'm trying to make, so don't expect wonderfully clean commentary. But I don't know how much how much my opinion of Valtteri Bottas is actually built on my knowledge of other Finnish drivers, and if that sort of colours it in a bad way, because I like to think of him in the same group as your Juha Kankkonens, your Marcus Grönholms, and your Kimi Räikkönens, in this sort of slightly crazy, wonderful car control, sort of edge of grip at all times drivers, which I think he's close to that, but he might be a bit more refined but less top end speed, because he didn't seem to shine this weekend. And you would think this would be one of the circuits where you would. Williams again should be. This should be a circuit where they're very quick, and they weren't, which is a shame. And then they made a big mistake. Sorry, I'm going to restart this race because I don't like quad bikes in this game. But Bottas comes into pit, and his right rear tyre is a different compound to the rest of them. He comes out with one yellow and three whites. That's just not quite right. And that is the first time I've seen that in a while, or ever since the regulations came into play. So it was interesting to see how the penalty stacked up. Like, obviously, there's no avoiding it. He was going to get a penalty, but I wasn't sure how they didn't make. Basically, what surprised me is he got a drive for a penalty. They didn't make him change the tyres. They were happy with him staying on the. Is it one soft and three mediums? I'm never great on being on top of the tyre situation, which, yeah, I guess in this situation that's fine, but it makes me like, this is the devious mind that I have. If you're a Formula 1 team and you're thinking of trying to, because a lot of the time, especially if you're like, if you're Mercedes, you just do everything by the book because your car is going to make you win the race. Someone else has to do something crazy to beat you, so just stick with it. But if I'm a lower down team there are some races where you get very bad rear wear, but the fronts are hardly touched. So why not take the risk of the penalty? And because you lose 20 seconds of race time, but you might make up a heap if you just go for the mixed compounds. Other like MotoGP, they have mixed compounds on front and rear. You can. There's not. I think it might be worth experimenting with. I know nobody will do it, and I'm sure the FIA will take a dim view at it, and you get a really poor. You get probably a much more severe sentence for it. A punishment for it if you did something much more tactically astute than just messing up your pit stop and giving someone the wrong tyre. But yeah, I think it's worth thinking about. It's certainly the sort of thing Eddie Jordan would do. So then it's worth getting into the real thing. I like. It's a shame for Daniel Ricciardo. He was going very well. He was sitting 4th or 5th when he pulled to the side, but life moves on. He's not having this is not a great year for him. And I think today would have been a nice result for him if it held together. But it is pretty much his year that this is the sort of thing that's going to happen. That engine is clearly not either the most reliable or the fastest thing in the world. And, oh well. But after that, it became very clear that Romain Grosjean was going very fast. He ate Perez for breakfast, and he cooled up behind Sebastian Vettel, who had been one-stopping and doing a very good, inconspicuous job. Now, Sebastian Vettel has of late, he did the same thing in Britain at Silverstone, where you don't see him for the entire race. When you do see him, he's not doing very well. But then, come the last few laps, he just happens to be sitting in third, and you don't. Where did that come from? I don't know how he does it. I think he's recaptured the form he had when in 2011, 2013 sort of pace, where things were just going excellently for him, and he's just doing his. He's somehow able to pull out races that nobody else could, and when you're in the second best car, but significantly worse than the first, that's sometimes the sort of thing you have to do. And it's won him 2 races this year, and it's put him vaguely in title contention. But Grosjean looked like he was catching him. But once he got within that second mark, he wasn't catching, like the traction out of La Source. Out of La Source into Eau Rouge was huge from that Ferrari. Like he was rinsing those tyres, and he was still producing enough speed from up the hill that Grosjean couldn't get near him on the straight, and that's the only way. Like, he made the DRS look insignificant. So I don't know how he did it, but he was holding them off, and it looked like we were going to get our standard podium of the 2 Mercedes and the 1 Ferrari, and we all were like, okay, why do we even bother watching this week? Which, I never really buy into the idea that even, I find F1 interesting enough to watch boring races, but I do understand the complaint when you see the same 3 faces every week. But, by the way, I've changed my quad on this and it seems much better. But, it was just a much better performance than I expected, given that I couldn't see him for most of the race. But he was holding Grosjean back, and then with a lap and a half to go, his tyre just exploded, and he was very angry. Some people were saying he was on the tyre for a long time, and you should expect this sort of thing. But I'm not gonna make that call yet, because I think it was performing well enough that you should expect it to do a little bit. You shouldn't expect it to explode. It should. Maybe there be a small puncture, or maybe it just suddenly decrease in performance hugely, but to explode, that's a bit much. But it's the right. So I really like. He gave a very sweary press conference to the BBC, and I understand it, and I feel bad for the guy. But he's not going to have a good week next week in Monza. Not next week, 2 weeks time. I always say next week when the race is in 2 weeks. That's just like he's. Well, I say he's not going to have a good week. He's driving a Ferrari at Monza. He's going to have a nice weekend, but winning is, I think, it's going to be beyond him, and the podium might be beyond him given the speed of those Force Indias. But we'll see. Just to clean up a bit of the final result then. So Hamilton won, Rosberg second, Grosjean third. Danny Kvyat came from 12th to finish 4th. Great race from him, but I don't know how that happens. Then a bit further down, Perez was in 5th. Massa was 6th. Then Raikkonen recovered from his lack of qualifying. He was 16th to 7th. Good race from him. And then probably the driver of the day. I know, this is getting a little bit sort of out of hand now. But Max Verstappen went from 18th on the grid to 8th. And, 8th, to be fair, he probably shouldn't have been 18th on the grid. And he had a penalty and stuff. And 8th is, there's a lot of fast cars in front of him. But the reason why I'm giving him driver of the day is just that pass on Nasser through Blanchimont. 2 cars should never go through Blanchimont at the same time and come out alive. So to pull that off at such a young age as well, he's really balls out driver. So I just astonishing performance really. And I guess that's about it. This is a bit of an experiment, and I'm sorry if I'm a bit nasally because I've been sneezing all day. But I'll try and do it again for more races. See you next